Hello, hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about something that I am so excited about. I am so excited because if you know me, you know that I love tea. I love tea so much. I probably have 4, maybe 5 cups of tea in a day. I know the caffeine addiction is real. I have always loved tea. So when I saw that theBalm was coming out with 2 new tea themed palettes, I was so excited. I knew I had to pick them up. So these are the What's the Tea palettes from theBalm. We have the hot tea version as well as the iced tea version. So of course the iced tea is a little bit more cool toned and the hot tea version is a warm toned palette. So I thought it'd be fun in today's video, instead of testing out both palettes at the same time, I'm gonna kind of do a 2-day wear test with each of these. So I will wear the hot tea palette today, and then tomorrow I'll come back and try the iced tea palette out. So if you want to see these 2 palettes, how they work, which one, if the one is better than the other, or all my thoughts about these 2 palettes, then keep on watching. We're gonna get started right now. So today I'm going to be testing out the What's the Tea hot tea palette. So of course this is the more warm tone of the 2 palettes. I mean, there are some like cooler tone. I would say that these 3 are probably the coolest tone, but in general it's a fairly warm tone, pretty neutral eyeshadow palette. I love how the actual like pans of the eyeshadow look like little teacups. I mean, just the attention to detail is so adorable. So in addition to having the 2 palettes that are tea themed, these palettes have something else really interesting going on with them. So these 2 shades up here, these are actually eyeshadow primers. We have one neutral color eyeshadow primer as well as one black eyeshadow primer. So with these, how theBalm kind of describes this palette is that you can add either the neutral palette to intensify the color of all of these shades, or you can use the black to kind of transform it and make it a little bit different, or you can use all of these 9 shades individually. So in total, there are 27 different like variations on each of these 9 eyeshadows in this palette. So 9 just on their own, 9 with the neutral, and 9 with the black base, which I thought is really, really interesting and kind of cool. So I'm kind of trying to decide what I want to do for this look. I feel like just to test it out and kind of see how these like eyeshadow primer bases work, I thought maybe I would go ahead and do the neutral eyeshadow base on one eye and then the black eyeshadow base on the other eye, and then try to do the same look on both eyes and then see how it works. Sound cool? I think that sounds like a good idea. Maybe it's not a good idea, but that's what I'm gonna do anyways. So let me just zoom in a little bit and then let's get started just putting this on my eye. So before I dove into this, I did take a quick look at some of the images and videos that theBalm actually had on their website, just to kind of get an idea of how they intend for this palette to work. So when they start going on in with this palette, it looks like they just take the eyeshadow primers on their fingers and apply it directly to their lids. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the more neutral eye, and I'm just gonna go with this primer. So it is a pretty creamy consistency. It feels very like emollient and wet. So I'm just picking this up and I'm gonna apply this to my right eye. Okay, so that went on pretty well. I'm now going to grab the shade Receipts, and I'm going to go in with a pretty fluffy blending brush. I'm using my R35 from Morphe, and I'm going to just kind of start it like I do every eyeshadow look, just to add a little color into the crease and onto my brow bone. Well, right off the bat, I'm having some issues. So I'm not getting a lot of color payoff. And where I put the primer down, it is changing color. It's looking a lot lighter and also like kind of dry. Wow, it's really just making my eyelid look so textured. And I know I have a little bit of a dry patch right here, but like it's accentuating that and just like clinging in the weirdest way. And it took a really long time of me really digging my brush, like really getting my brush in there to get any kind of color payoff at all. So Okay, we're off to a little bit of a rocky start, but hopefully we can turn it around. So now I'm going to go into the shade Ooh La La using my R37 brush and keeping this a little bit lower and focusing it in the crease. Just to clean up the edges a little bit, I'm going to go back into the shade Receipts, as well as mixing with a little bit of the pinker shade Word on the Street. Okay, so in the tutorial that I watched from theBalm, they kind of went in with just one initial shade in the crease and then put the shimmer directly on top of the eyeshadow primer base. I had so much trouble getting that first shade to even show up on my eye that the color actually came down a lot farther on my eyelid, so the base is not showing through. So I am going to go back in to the eyeshadow primer base and just tap that on the eye. All right. Now I'm going to take the gold shimmer shade on the down low, and I'm going to tap this right on my eyelid directly over where I just put the neutral eyeshadow primer. Now I'm going to go into the red shade in the palette called Hey Girl Hey, and I'm taking this on a kind of pointed blending brush, and I'm going to just kind of deepen up the outer crease of my eye. Finally, I'm going into the dark brown color in the palette called Scandalous, taking this on a very small pointed blending brush and using this to deepen up the outer V. Alright, so here we have it. This is a one eye done. In general, I feel like it looks pretty okay. Also, the texture that I noticed on my eye when I first started using it is still there. The shimmer obviously has covered up a lot of it, but it's still, my eyelid looks very bumpy, which is not normally the case. Did I also not say that as soon as you start to use the palette, there would be powder kick up in these? And there is. So far I'm on the fence about this. I'm so scared. Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much because I'm just going to do the same thing on this side that I did over here, except the only difference is I'm going to be using the black eyeshadow primer base instead of the neutral base. So wish me luck. I'm just going to hop into it and get going. Ooh, okay. Okay, so this is both of the eyes completely done. Of course, this eye had the neutral eyeshadow primer, while this one had the black primer. Yeah, okay, so they do look different. This one looks a lot darker. It looks a lot smokier. I do have to say I like what the black eyeshadow primer did with this gold. On this side, the gold seemed a little bit, I don't want to say transparent. It took a couple layers to build up full opacity with the gold. Well, this one, I think the gold just popped a little bit more. It was a little more intense. I had the same issue with this eye as I did with the original one. It made my eyelid look really textured and just kind of not so great. It also clung really strangely right in this area to those first two light kind of, transition shades that I put down, the Receipts and Word on the Street. It just clung weird and turned them kind of a strange, like, kind of gray color. Can you see how it's like sort of just like gray right in there, right there? It's weird. It's weird, and it wouldn't go away. Maybe tomorrow when I test out the Iced Tea palette, I will not use the primers over the matte shades and see if that works any better. I'm not sure how I feel about this look yet. I'm gonna go finish the rest of my face and then I will be back. So that's day one. This is day one, look one with the What's the Tea Hot Tea eyeshadow palette. I generally like it. I think you can see a slight difference in the two eyes in that this one just looks a lot darker and heavier as opposed to this one, which is a little bit lighter and brighter. I think if I had to pick a look that I like better, I think I have to pick with a neutral look. This one looks a little heavy. I mean, you can see how it almost makes my eye look like it's drooping a little bit. And this is my left eye, which is the good eye. My right eye is the lazy eye. Let you in a secret. Maybe, I think I found a baby picture of it not that long ago. I'll put a baby picture in and you can see how like my right eye was my lazy eye. I had to wear an eye patch for a while when I was like a baby. Apparently it didn't get fixed all the way because my right eye is still kind of wonky. So for me to like my right eye better for the look on that, I think is kind of saying a lot. I don't know. So day one, I like the neutral eyeshadow primer better. Jury's still out on how the palettes actually work. It is yet to be seen, but I will see you guys tomorrow to try out a different look using these palettes. Well, hey, what's up? So this was not expected. I thought today I would be filming look number 2 using the Iced Tea palette from theBalm, but after what happened yesterday, which we pulled it together, we got through it, but it was not the greatest eyeshadow look of all time, and I didn't have the easiest time working with this palette at all. I thought I would try and see what happens if I do not use the primers that were included in here, like if I didn't use these two guys. So for today's look, I used my MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot eyeshadow primer, which I use practically every day and I love, and I've had such great results with that primer. I used that all over my lid as my base today. And then I also did not use these primers for a glitter glue. I used my regular go-to Too Faced glitter glue. And this is the result that I got. Let me scoot closer so you can see. Is it the greatest eyeshadow look I've ever done? Probably not, but it was really simple and fast. I just kind of like threw something together because I thought this will be fun to do a little like mini trial experiment with this palette to see what happens. I used a combination of both these palettes. Let me talk you through really quickly what I did. So I started out by going into the shade Word on the Street, which is the pink shade from the Hot Tea palette. Now this, I did not realize yesterday, is a satin. It's a satin. I didn't realize that when swatching it, and I didn't realize it when I used this shade yesterday. Today, I realized that. So I started out by putting this directly into the crease. I actually thought this worked really well and was a lot more pigmented than I thought. I think this Receipts shade, that's kind of like the more salmon shade, is also a satin, which now knowing that affects kind of how I thought of it yesterday. I still didn't get a lot of this pigment from the Receipts shade. I did use a little bit of that like on the brow bone to lighten it up. Still didn't get a ton of pigment from Receipts, but I was really happy with Word on the Street and I thought that actually looked really good in the crease. So after I went into Word on the Street, I basically went into the Iced Tea palette, which I haven't used yet, obviously. I mean, that you've seen. I used it today, but I haven't done like a full review on this guy. That will be tomorrow. But I did go into the shade called The Rundown, which is kind of like this dark grayish purple shade, and I used that on the outer edge of my eye. Blended that out using a little bit of Kiss and Tell, which is the really light, kind of like light lilac purple shade, especially throwing that like kind of in the inner portion of my eye. I next went into the He Said, She Said, that's tricky to say, the He Said, She Said, which is a light lilac shimmer. This one I think actually worked pretty well. Tapped that on the lid and then went over the top in the kind of like cool duochromy purple blue shade from the Hot Tea palette called Tell All, and tapped that on, like I said, using my glitter glue. They actually went on pretty well. Tell All is pretty sheer on its own. That's why I used it in addition to He Said, She Said. But together, I think it actually came up with this kind of like pretty grayish purple smoky eye look. And then I went back into the Hot Tea palette, used Spill the Beans, the highlight shade that I used the day before. I still love that shade. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, so that's basically what I did for this eyeshadow look today. And I have to say, I think the mattes and or now I know that some of those colors are actually satins perform so much better with a regular go-to eyeshadow primer. I will try tomorrow when I use the Iced Tea palette. I'll prime my lid with my regular go-to primer, use the mattes that way, and then I will use the like base colors only for the shimmers. That's what I've discovered for today, but we will see what happens tomorrow. I will see you guys then. I was gonna say goodbye, but it's not really goodbye because you will literally see me now. Hi! It's now day 3 of testing out the What's the Tea palettes from theBalm. So today I'm going to be using the Iced Tea palette exclusively. So this of course is the cool tone eyeshadow palette out of the 2 palettes that were released. I did use a little bit of this yesterday, but I really only used these 3 shades. So there's still a lot more to play with here. I am also, after yesterday's little experiment, I think I'm going to actually start by priming my lids with my MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot. This primer tends to work better. Or should I use a different primer? I did use this one yesterday. Should I use a different primer? I'm going to use this one. This is going to be really just, I'm going to test everything about these palettes. So I'm going to go in with the Morphe primer. Oh, first I should probably zoom in. Should I zoom in? Probably. That would be a good thing, right? So I'm going to start today's look by going into the light cool tone brown shade called Oh Snap. I'm taking this on a pretty fluffy blending brush, and again I'm just going to start by hitting this in the crease and then on the brow bone. Okay, so far so good. This is actually going on pretty pigmented. The color payoff is nice. It blends really well, so far, I like this Oh Snap shade pretty well. It's also a true matte. We know how the satins played me the first day. Okay, so now I have a nice base down. I think I want to do something a little bit different, and I want to play with these top 2 kind of like blue colors in the palette. I think those look really cool. So I'm going to take a Morphe M433, and I'm going to go into the dark blue shade called Talk of the Town. And this color I'm going to keep really centered and focused right in my crease. This is a really beautiful, rich, dark blue shade. I really like it. I think it's pretty. It's very powdery though. There's a ton of kick up in the pan, and there's also just a little bit of like fallout, and like I tried to clean it off and it's kind of smearing. So I'm really glad that I'm doing this before my foundation. All right, so now that I've got this and it looks cray, there was so much fallout and I tapped my brush off every time. Whew, yeah, there was a lot of fallout. So I'm just gonna clean it up. Okay, much better. So I think now I am going to go into the primer bases. And last time I used my finger because that's what I had seen on theBalm's website. It was fine. I just want a little more control. So I'm going to take a flat synthetic brush this time. This is the Luxie 211 concealer brush, and I'm just gonna go directly into the neutral eyelid primer. This whole idea, it's a cool concept, it's a cool idea, but it's just the execution's not quite there. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I did basically a really just quick little cut crease. I am now going to take my finger and I'm going to go into the blue shimmer shade called What's the Buzz. That's really pretty. Picks up well. That's really pretty. I kind of love that blue shade. That's so gorgeous. Wow, okay. Keep together. I'm now gonna go back into Talk of the Town just a little bit, clean up the edges here. And on a very small pointed blending brush, I'm going to go into the dark brown shade called Latest Scoop, just to bring a little extra depth and color into here. Okay, nice. That's really gorgeous. Okay, I am now going to go do the exact same thing on this eye, except I'm going to use the black eyeshadow base. Alright, so here is the eye all done with the black eyeshadow base. You can tell it is a lot darker than the one with the neutral base, but in general I still like both eyes, I think, pretty equally. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish up the rest of my face, and then I'll be right back to give you my final thoughts about all 3 days of testing out these new palettes. Okay, so I'm back. This is the finished, finalized look. I have to say, I am loving this. I don't think I've ever done like a full blue eye look, and it's really, 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 really pretty. Like this shimmer shade, oh my goodness, is so pretty. This What's the Buzz? It's so pretty. It is such a unique color. I really, really like it. I have to say, so after comparing the 2 days, I think this is gonna be a shocker because I normally never go for cool tone eyeshadows. It's not really my jam. I don't always think they look that great on my skin tone, but I think out of the 2 palettes, I have to say that the Iced Tea palette, I think, is definitely a winner. I feel like the shadows in here perform a little bit better than the shadows do in the Hot Tea palette, which I don't know why. It just seems strange. Maybe it's because I am not really a big fan of these 2 satin shades. They're just not really pigmented enough for me, and they have, like, because they're the satin, they just do something weird on the eye. I don't know. I don't love them. Although I do have to say I love this highlight shade. Like, that is just, it's a beautiful, beautiful color. And in general, this color scheme, I don't know, it's sort of warm, but like it's not overly warm. So it just seems a little strange. The other problem that I had yesterday is that I noticed that the shimmers started to really fade pretty quickly. And I don't know, I want an eyeshadow look that's gonna stay in place and last all day. Is that asking too much? I really don't think it is, because there are so many eyeshadows that I have and I have used that do that. I just didn't love it yesterday. And I just also felt like all of the shadows kind of just like faded in intensity. And I feel like a lot of that had to do with me using this satin Word on the Street shade in the crease. I am not a big fan of the satins. I really am not. Like, I think the mattes in these palettes are really nice. They blend well, they're pigmented, and they last on the eye. The satins, not so much. So because of that, I think my favorite of the 2 palettes has to be the Iced Tea palette. I really, really like this palette. I think it's gorgeous. The only thing I think it's really missing is like a brow bone highlight, like maybe this Kiss and Tell shade, but it is a very light, like lilac purple shade, so I don't know if I would use that as a brow bone highlight. I mean, it has to be like a look. You know, it has to be a particular look to use like a light lilac as a highlight. But in general, I still feel like this palette has a lot of versatility. You can go quite dark with this latest Scoop shade. You can do a more neutral look. You can, because this is kind of, it's kind of a dark brown, so you could do, you know, a dark brown cool tone look. You can do a dark blue cool tone look, or you could do a dark purple cool tone look. So I think there's, you know, a lot of versatility in this palette. And yeah, it doesn't have a highlight brow bone shade, but you know what? That's okay. So you can really do that with any highlighter. It doesn't have to be a specific shade in a palette to do an inner corner or brow bone highlight. So I'm not miffed about that too much. You know, it's something that's missing, but in general, I still really, really, really like this palette, and I think it's really beautiful. Okay. That being said, now let's talk about the like kind of cool, unique, interesting factor in these palettes with these 2 eyeshadow primer bases. I know that theBalm says that they can be used with the mattes and the satins and the shimmer shades. Now, I don't agree with that because I don't like these primer bases for the mattes and the satins, especially the satins. The satins don't work well on top of these primer bases. They just, no, that's a hard pass for me. Now, if we're talking about these shimmer shades in the palettes and using them as using the primer base to transform the color of the shimmers, that I can get behind, because you can see, just looking at me, you can tell that this eye is a lot darker. So this is the eye, of course, that used the dark black primer base, as opposed to this one, which used the neutral primer base. With the blue shade, I don't notice as much of a difference. I noticed more of a difference on day one when I did it with the gold shade. I did notice that it kind of turned, instead of like a light, bright gold, with the neutral base, it actually kind of made it a little more of like a deep antiqued gold with the black base. And so I like that. I think it is a really, really cool concept. I think it's unique. I think it's interesting. And I think it does add a lot of extra versatility to either of these palettes. However, just, I don't know, the functionality of having these like cream bases in this palette with these like quite dusty, sometimes quite dusty shades, especially, honey, my favorite Talk of the Town shade. This is the dustiest shade I have used in a hot minute. Like, it gets everywhere, and it's a really dark shade. In general, I think these palettes are really, really cool. I think they're unique. I think they're a lot of fun. I enjoy the theming. I enjoy the concept behind them. Of course, I love the tea, because your girl loves some tea. I love me some tea. So anyways, if you guys are going to pick up the palette, if you already have, I would love to know your thoughts about it down in the comments. I love to know what you guys think about different things. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. It lets me know that you liked it, so I can keep doing videos like this in the future. I really kind of enjoyed doing this like 3-day wear test, testing out different styles and techniques to see what really works with these palettes. I thought that was kind of fun. So if you liked it, let me know. And yeah, that's all I have. So thank you again for watching. I love you all so much. I hope your day is fantastic wherever you are. I will see you next time. Bye.